Hi everyone, today we're going to see how we can use the image to text API capability offered by OpenAI to see and interact with desktop applications. Specifically, we'll write a script that allows us to look at a login form and autofill that form. All right, so here's the login screen for an application that I usually use, and what I'm going to now run is a program that we're gonna write that looks at this screen, figures out what are the different form elements that needs to be filled, and autofills all of them. Here we go. And this uses the OpenAI's vision capability to understand what items need to be filled out. There you go. And if I were to continue, you can see that it worked. There are a lot of new capabilities that are offered by OpenAI now. Text to text, which is language understanding. You can use that to do all sorts of things from writing poems to writing code. Recently, OpenAI has also announced a number of vision capabilities that includes image to text. There's also text to image capability using DALL-E. There's understanding of audio, so you have speech to text, and then also you can convert text to speech. Today we're going to focus on the image to text or vision capability. I find this particularly interesting because processing visual information is such an important part of what a human brain does. In fact, more than 30% of human cortex is dedicated to vision processing tasks. And machine learning for computer vision has been around for decades, and there's been a lot of progress in this field. What's unique about the recent advances is that these transformer models provide a unique ability to understand images and use that understanding to maybe do or accomplish tasks that it was not explicitly trained for. This is also called zero-shot learning. Let's take a look at what are some of the amazing capabilities that this image to text model can do. So here we're going to just upload a image. This is an image that I drew earlier of a login screen, and I'm going to ask ChatGPT to say, please describe this image in detail and write me a HTML code to generate this. All right, as you can see, it knows that this is a login interface. There's a login at top, and there's two fields, and again, it's also able to generate a HTML code snippet to create this. What we can do is we can see if this actually works. So let me just copy this code and create an HTML file. I just copied this into an HTML file, and if I were to run it, this is what I see. You see that yeah, it was able to generate a form, right? So this is pretty incredible. As we just saw that this vision capability not only allows you to convert from sketches and drawing into actual working code, we can also ask it more complicated things like try to analyze a schematics for an electronic circuit, and let's see how that works. If we were to just upload this. Right, so you can see that it has a pretty good understanding of this particular circuit. It knows that there's an LED connected to the ground and there's a resistor placed in series. Right, so what we want to do is we want to see how we could use this capability to build an application that allows us to autofill forms. And this, even though this is a toy example, this will be a stepping stone towards a more complicated application that automate out tedious, boring tasks. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start by learning how to use GPT-4 to understand images. It's pretty straightforward if you read through the documentation. So what we're essentially trying to do is we're going to use this capability to look at the desktop application and figure out what elements that we're trying to fill, right? So in this case, we need to fill up the email and password. I'm going to create a virtual environment to download and install various Python libraries. Inside my virtual environment, I'm going to install OpenAI library. We're also going to need the OpenAPI key, which you can get from their website. All right, so in part one, what we're going to do is we're going to take a screenshot of the desktop, and we're going to use Vision API to identify form items that needs to be filled. I've already added the OpenAI API key in the environment variables. There's one more thing, one more Python library that we want to install to interact with the desktop, and it's called PyAutoGUI. I've just installed the PyAutoGUI. Now I'm going to import PyAutoGUI, and I'm going to take a screenshot of the desktop application that I want to autofill. All right, taking a screenshot is really easy with PyAutoGUI. What you can do is just import the library, and you can just do PyAutoGUI.screenshot, and then you can just save that image. So now what you have is this screenshot image that we took, and what we're essentially trying to do is use the vision capability to identify what form elements need to be filled, and then use PyAutoGUI to actually autofill those elements. So in order to use the Vision API, what we need to do is we need to load the API key to the environment variable, and we're going to do that by using .env. And I just realized that I haven't installed .env. Do it, just do pip install python /.env. Let's load up the environment variables. This is important so that we can create a client for OpenAI API. Perfect. All right, so what we're going to do is now load that screenshot, and we need to encode it in this base64 format. So I wrote a little helper function here to do that, and once that image is encoded, we can essentially make an API call to this particular model, GPT-4 Vision Preview, and the text that we're gonna give it is, given this dialog box, from top to bottom list of boxes that need to be filled, and only return JSON with a list of input fields. So hopefully this with this call, we're able to identify what are different items in that form that needs to be filled. All right, let's give it a try. Beautiful. So it correctly identifies in this screenshot that you need to fill up email and password. We can also do other interesting stuff, like we can just ask it. We can even ask it to say what are some of the we can see. All right, so it also knows that there are continue and sign up buttons, which is true. There's also another thing it could click, the forget password, which it actually didn't correctly identify. But this is pretty interesting because it essentially gives GPT the ability to look at images and understand it. And this is something that we can use to build interesting applications that allow us to control things that are in your desktop. So in this case, we're going to go back to the earlier prompt. This prompt is going to help us identify all the items that needs to be filled, right? And we're going to eventually autofill all of them. Great. So it knows that we need to fill up email and password. This output is still in a string format, so what we're going to do is we're going to convert this text or string into JSON data by removing this and this. Right, so if you look at JSON data, then we should be able to just look at input fields and know exactly what items that need to be filled. Another really important part of when it comes to using GPT is trying to figure out where these elements are, right? So if you wanted to click and autofill some of these elements, surprisingly, the Vision API is not very good at that. So for instance, if you were to, let me just repeat this again and ask it, where, give me the coordinates of the email input box. This is something that what I've found is first, either it says, sorry, I can't assist with that request. You can do clever things like, say, imagine this picture is 16 by 16 grid, and where in this grid do you think the email input box is? It just answers saying, it just gives you an answer that is typically incorrect. So this is one of those crucial feature that is missing in the current Vision API. Which is why we're going to have to use traditional OCRs, so optical character recognition, to identify bounding boxes and where these particular elements might be. And even though these models are supposed to be more general and are used for zero-shot learning, there's still a use case where we might have to use a dedicated model for accomplishing certain tasks. And in this case, we're going to use Tesseract, which is a pretty popular open source OCR library for Python that allows us to detect text in images. And given that we already know that this form consists of two input fields, both email and password, we just need to find those. And then once we find that, that's what we're going to use to then autofill. Before running this code, I'm going to install Tesseract. What I've done is written this this little function here. It's what it does is, for any given text that you want to find in that screenshot, it looks for those images. First, it uses the PyTesseract library to take an image and just extract text data out of that. And then it's included in that data is also the coordinates, and it essentially goes and for a given search text, it finds the bounding boxes. And yeah, it just draws the rectangles around those texts. Let's see how well it did. By the way, all this code is available, and there's a link below. All right, so here you can see it did a pretty good job of finding the location for that email as well as password. We're going to write a small helper function again to kind of update the JSON of data of input fields with coordinates detected by this Tesseract library. We print it. Okay, so we can see there's this input email field, and then this is where the coordinates of where it is. Okay, now that we have this, we can use PyAutoGUI to move your mouse and autofill those components. All right, so we're gonna import PyAutoGUI, and if we can just test it by just moving the cursor. So if you move to 1010, you can see the cursor moved all the way up here. And then yeah, so basically what we now are going to do is define various data that we typically use to fill out forms. Here we're just using email and password, but it could be your name, your address, whatever. And then we're just going to loop through the input fields, and we're going to extract the coordinates. There's this factor of 2 difference between the screenshot coordinates and the coordinate system for PyAutoGUI, so we're just going to take that into account here and essentially click and then write the text into those fields. All right, let's just give it a try without having the screen on. You see it's gonna just type everywhere. But yeah, I've turned this into a single Python file called autofill.py, and we're gonna now see it in action by calling python autofill.py. There you go. If I were to continue, I'm actually able to log in. I hope that was a simple and short introduction to vision capability offered by OpenAI. There are other open source libraries that offer this capability, but I just started with OpenAI because it seems to be one of the best ones. Hopefully, it gives you some ideas about the capabilities as well as the limitations. People are also trying to use vision APIs for robotic process automation, generating websites directly from sketches. So lots of interesting progress happening in this field. And please like and subscribe and stay tuned for more.